me, definitely 2024 was a good year. And indeed, we could record some growth pulled by the data center business. And data center represented last year 20% of our sales, and it grew organically about plus 15%. So definitely, there's a lot of demand coming from data center operators for technology in order to, fulfill their demand.
Do you have a concern, though, that if the big data service providers actually start looking at their budget, and by the way, out of the latest tech earnings in the States, I see very little sign of that at the moment, that actually it's going to increase a lot of volatility into your portfolio? Because I'm just wondering whether this is a once-in-a-lifetime big boost rather than something that's going to be sustained.
Well, they do already look at their budget. And indeed, the technological solutions we provide today are one mean to optimize the budget, because one of the big expense when you operate a data center is coming from energy, the energy bill, especially what it takes to cool down high-density data centers. And with the technology we provide, we are able to reduce the amount of energy which is needed to operate a data center. So technology is also the answer to build more efficient, cheaper data centers.
Yeah, and it dovetails into one of your core competencies as well, Benoit, the more efficient buildings, more efficient infrastructure, repurposing buildings to make them far better as well. How's that market looking more generally, not just, of course, in the AI data center world?
Well, this is indeed the challenge of our lifetime, is how can we make the building more efficient? This is the only way for our countries to significantly reduce their CO2 emissions. Buildings represent 30% of the world's CO2 emissions. So if we don't tackle the energy emitted by buildings, we won't be able to meet our CO2 reduction challenges. And for that, again, you have a number of technological solutions for homes, for offices, for universities, for hospitals, in order to cut the energy bill significantly, ranging from lighting control systems, for example, to thermostat or to building management systems.
And yet, once again, your numbers beautifully show, Benoit, the difference between US dynamism and the problems we have in Europe. Let me just go through one segment, if I may, because it's roughly 40-40, your activities there. The US saw sales increase up 5.7%. Europe saw sales decrease by 2.3%. An 8% differential in that performance there. Is that set to be maintained, Benoit?
Well, it is coming mainly from the difference in exposure in data centers. Data centers represent 30% of our US sales and only 10% of our European sales. And since data center is growing about 15% everywhere, in Europe, in the US, and elsewhere, clearly it explains the difference in growth. Now, we believe that there's some uplift potential in Europe, not only because the data center market, European data center market, will keep growing, and the investments which were announced earlier this week show that there is a clear strategy from a number of European policymakers to invest heavily into AI, into data centers, but also because at some point, the building industry in Europe will recover. It might take a few quarters, it might take some time, but with the decrease in interest rate, for example, the housing market in Europe should at some point bottom out and start to grow again.
Right, tell us